And we haven't even begun to address the psychological injuries. But identifying these victims, which is where we are right now, is still proving to be very difficult because many of the bodies are not intact. And then, of course, there are many people who cannot even speak if they survive this at all. I want to bring in CNN contributor Larry Koblinski, who's a forensic scientist at John Jay College of Criminal Justice, and CNN's chief medical correspondent, Dr. Sanjay Gupta. Sanjay, if I can begin with you, let's start with the living and those medical hospitals, all of those medical personnel who have military backgrounds, because that's what they're dealing with. It looks like a war zone. As a doctor, take me through this kind of triage and how you start to identify people who can't help you identify themselves.
Well, that last part can be challenging sometimes, without a doubt. But as far as that first part goes, with the nature of explosions, these are in part war zone-like injuries because of what happens during an explosion. You have this explosion that causes this ultra pressurized blast. Even before there is shrapnel, it's that blast that causes compression of various organs in the body, the lungs and things like that. And those can sometimes be difficult injuries to diagnose. Afterward then comes all the shrapnel, bomb fragments, other shrapnel that can cause these sorts of penetrating injuries. And then that third wave where the bodies move one on top of the other. So that's what they sort of expect to see when the first responders arrive on a scene like this. But then actually being able to identify people who have been so gravely injured, they're in an ICU, on a breathing machine or something like that, can be challenging. That's a challenge no matter the cause of what's happened here, trying to find family members, trying to find identification, in some cases even doing DNA analysis, all that sort of stuff, even though they are living, some can sometimes be done. But right now, obviously, the priority for so many of those patients in those military hospitals is just taking care of them. Yeah,
right?
Saving them.
Yeah, the ID process, that can come later, although,
Correct.
God, the suffering of their families who are still looking for them. Just quickly, and I know every country and every hospital may have a different logistics setup, but do they actually tag the unidentified as, say, Jane and John Doe 1 through 270, or how do they actually try to keep some kind of record?
That is part of it, and it's a little bit different in some countries in Europe versus the United States. For example, in the United States, as Larry I know can talk to, it's the pathologists that are really running the show. In many European countries, the pathologists are still running the show, but the police are sort of overseeing it, and there is a different sort of process to at least identify and tag, and then go back and identify the bodies more conclusively. So they may have an idea right now, they may be pretty confident, but they don't have firm confirmation on the identification yet.
Well, let me switch over to Larry for a moment about that. And
Sure.
I want to move actually from those who survived to the scene, because I was astounded when I heard American Airlines thought they might be able to fly into the airport this weekend. Just given the notion of forensics work is hard enough as it is, this is like putting a dozen people in a blender and then trying to sort them out later. I mean, I hate to be that morbid, but this is the horrifying challenge they have.
It's a terrible scene to work. But mass disasters happen, plane crashes, terrorist activities, and we have highly specialized trained individuals. They're part of mortuary teams, and they are primarily pathologists with other kinds of scientists, DNA experts, odontologists, dentists. And the idea is to collect every part. You've got to document everything, sketch it, photograph it, but certainly collect every single body part. If the body is more or less intact, you could try to identify by height, weight, gender, hair color, eye color, dental records, fingerprints.
Families for eye color and last known clothing.
Absolutely, yeah. But on top of this, you need to create a DNA database of close relatives or samples that we know come from these individuals, and that way DNA testing can help you put together all of the various pieces, because ultimately next of kin is going to want to bury their loved ones. And so we need to get everything together, kind of like a puzzle, putting the pieces together so that these people can be laid to rest.
What's remarkable is how quickly they were able to identify those bombers, who clearly must have been very close to ground zero of those explosions, and obviously would have there would have been a lot to collect at that point. It's such a morbid topic, but it's important because this is the horrifying work that these authorities are having to do. Dr. Sanjay Gupta, thank you so much. And Dr. Koblinski, if you could stay around, I got a couple more questions for you in a moment. Thank you to you too.